Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for week 16 of this NFL season. I'm just going to go ahead and assume if you're watching this video, that means you are in the second round of your playoffs before the championship game next week. So, congratulations, whether it was through you earning a bye week or getting that big first round win from this past week. As a reminder, I'm just a big believer that you want to play the players that did get you to the playoffs. So you shouldn't be picking up somebody off the waivers to put into your starting lineup unless you are dealing with an injury at your quarterback position if you did lose like a Patrick Mahomes. The only players you really should be picking off waivers right now is running backs and wide receivers just to bolster your depth options. I don't think you should be having a second quarterback or a second tight end on your bench unless you are trying to play keep away from your opponent this week, which you should be considering as well. As a quick reminder, again, just like as it has been all season, my top waiver wire targets, they do have to have at least 50% roster availability on the rosters on ESPN, just so there's a good chance not only you could put a claim in for them tonight, but also in case you do miss out on any of your claims, these players could be available for you throughout the week. My quarterback out of the week, he's been on a very hot streak over the last 4 games. It's going to be the Jaguars quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. He's only on 47.4% of the rosters right now. This past weekend, I know it's the Jets, but he still threw for 330 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. He also ran the ball 5 times for 51 yards and a touchdown. When you look at his last 4 games, in each of those 4 games, he's thrown for at least 225 passing yards. He has thrown 12 passing touchdowns in those 4 games. And what you like about Trevor is he is athletic. He does have that mobility where he can give you a floor as a fantasy quarterback. In those 4 games, he actually finished with at least 25 rushing yards in 3 of those 4 games. Now, he does have a tough matchup this week. He is going against the Broncos, who have allowed the 6th fewest points per game against the quarterback position. But if you're looking to maybe pick up a quarterback that is on a hot streak that can potentially give you at least a nice floor for this week, Lawrence is not a bad option to turn to. My running back out of the week, I think he's been a running back out of the week for a month straight because he's definitely earned it. It's going to be the backup running back for the Rams, Blake Corum. He's only rostered on 29.6% of the rosters right now. This past weekend against a tough matchup against the Lions, he ran the ball 11 times for 71 yards and got a touchdown. Over the last 2 games, he's touched the ball at least 11 times. He's gotten at least 70 rushing yards. He's kind of working himself into a flex play when the matchup is right. In those 2 games, he's also picked up 3 touchdowns as well. If you're a Kieran Williams manager, I would definitely be looking to have Corum on my bench, so that way if Williams were to unfortunately suffer an injury this week, you could turn to Corum in the championship week. I wouldn't look to play him. I'll go into more of this tomorrow as a spoiler alert, but him and Williams do draw a tough matchup this week. They're tied, going against the Seahawks on that Thursday night matchup. Seattle's tied for the 3rd fewest allowed points per game against running backs this year. My wide receiver ad of the week, I mentioned him, I think, a couple weeks ago, but Adonai Mitchell for the Jets. He's only rostered on 29.6% of the rosters right now. This past weekend against the Jaguars, he had 6 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets. In every game since he's been traded to the Jets, he's gotten at least 6 targets. The reason why I like him as a bench option, I'm not looking to pick him up and play him, it's just that he's getting at least consistent targets with the Jets, and he's playing on a team that has a bad defense. So he's more likely going to see a lot of opportunity because likely the Jets will have to throw the ball to play catch up. He does draw kind of a middle of the pack team. They are playing the Saints this weekend, who have allowed the 12th fewest points per game against the wide receiver position. But again, like I said, I'm not trying to pick up Mitchell to play him this week. He's a player a bit where I'm like, hey, I don't really trust my wide receivers that are on my bench. So if I lose one of my starting wide receivers, I would maybe want somebody like Mitchell to turn to. My tight end out of the week, he's been on here multiple times throughout the seasons and multiple times over the last month or so. And this is, I know, at least his 2nd straight week in a row. But the rookie tight end for Chicago, he's just been playing very good football over the last month and a half. Colson Lovin, he's only on 40.4% of the rosters right now. This past weekend against the Browns, he had 4 receptions for 63 yards on 5 targets. He's actually gotten at least 5 targets in the last 4 games. Does have a tough matchup on paper, where he's going against the Packers defense, who have allowed the 7th fewest points per game against tight ends this year. But he has developed his role in this offense, where if you're looking to stream a tight end, I think I would trust him just because he has consistently gotten those 5+ targets over the last 4 games. The once fantasy darling earlier in the season, until he kind of got himself found into a running back by committee, Ja'Cory Merritt, Bill Merritt, Krosky Merritt, whatever you want to call him. He's only rostered on 47.8% of the rosters right now. He's my flex ad of the week. This past weekend against the Giants, he ran the ball 18 times for 96 yards and a touchdown. Now, I do want to make sure I make it aware that Chris Rodriguez, the guy he was splitting touches with, didn't play last weekend because of an injury. So if Rodriguez, though, is going to continue to miss games, that's going to benefit Krosky Merritt, where he can be a flex option for you either this week or next week. Now, he's going against the Eagles defense, who are tied for the 11th most allowed points per game against the running back position. So if you end up finding Rodriguez does get ruled out for this game on Saturday, I do think Krosky Merritt could be considered as a flex play in week 16. So that wraps up my waiver wire targets. Moving on to my top streamable defenses for week 16. As a reminder, just like those players I just spoke about, these defenses, they do have to have at least 50% roster availability on the leagues on ESPN. So you can put claims in for them tonight, or if you miss out on the ideal defense you wanted to pick up, there are other that you can maybe see if these defenses are available for you after the waivers process tomorrow. And as I always say, streaming defenses is a high risk, high reward option. Do understand sometimes it's going to work out for you, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it hits right in the middle. With that being said, my number one streaming defense I do like this week is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs against the Titans. Chiefs are only on 30.3% of the rosters right now. When you look at this matchup, it's mainly just because of the offense they're playing against. The Titans have allowed the 4th most sacks in the NFL, so ideally you're going to get like Chris Jones and George Karlaftis to get pressure and on Cam Ward to get those sacks where you can rack up points. What gives you a high floor is not only the Titans are scoring 16.1 points per game this season, which is tied for the 2nd fewest in the NFL. The Chiefs are only giving up 19.1 points per game this season, which is the 4th fewest allowed in the NFL. So I feel like this is a high floor match, high floor streaming defense for you, especially in the playoffs, that can get you some points with the sacks, and ideally, hopefully you get at least 1 or 2 turnovers from them. My number 2 streaming defense is from a team that's been playing some pretty good ball over the last month. It's going to be the Saints against the Jets. Saints are only on 9.9% of the rosters. This is a home game for the Saints, which I factor that in because they have one of those home environments that can affect the opposing offense. And then it's just the offense that they're playing. And we'll have to see who's going to be the quarterback this week, but I'm not too worried about whoever the quarterback is. Because with that being said, the Jets have allowed the 3rd most sacks in the NFL, so that's where you can rack up points. The Jets are tied for the 4th most turnovers, so that's where you can get the ceiling opportunities if the Saints can convert one of those turnovers into a touchdown. And what this also gives you is a floor, because the Jets offense is only scoring 19.7 points per game this season, which is the 4th fewest in the NFL. And one sneaky thing about this to consider is if you stream the Saints defense against the Jets this week, you can actually stream them next week against the Titans in week 17. My number 3 streaming defense I like, I'm going to go with the Bills against the Browns. The Bills are rostered on 43.8% of the rosters. This is a high-risk, high-reward option just because we never know what Bills defenses we are going to get. But with that being said, they are going against a Browns offense, which are tied for the 4th most turnovers. So ideally, they're going to be able to hopefully pressure Shedeur Sanders into those rookie mistakes where you can get you at least a pick 6. And then what actually does give it a floor, even though you can't truly trust this Bills defense, is the Browns are only scoring 16.1 points per game this season, which is tied for the 2nd fewest in the NFL. This next one is going to be a high risk, high reward play, but I still do like the Falcons against the Cardinals. Falcons are rostered on 23.1% of the rosters right now. Obviously, you never know what you're going to get the Cardinals offense, right? Cardinals offense either just really stinks or they just start to light it up with Trey McBride and Michael Wilson with Jacoby Brissett. But with that being said, the way you can get points from this is the Atlanta Falcons actually do have the 2nd most sacks in the NFL. And then they're going against a Cardinals offense that are tied for the 5th most sacks sacks allowed. Last weekend, the Cardinals were missing both of their starting tackles. We'll have to see if either of those guys can play, but if both starting tackles cannot play this weekend, I like the idea that the Falcons are going to rack up like 5+ sacks in this game. So that is why I like Atlanta. Now, my number 5 streaming defense, I don't love this at all. This is going to be like a 12 to 14 team league streaming option. If you miss out on these top 4 defenses that I just mentioned, this would be one that you can possibly roll the dice on. But the Jets against the Saints, Jets are only rostered on 9% of the rosters right now. Mainly just because the Saints have turned the ball over this season. They actually are tied for the 4th most turnovers. Even though they've been winning some games lately, Saints still only average 16.1 points per game this season, which is tied for the 2nd fewest in the NFL. So that does give you a little bit of a floor. Again, I'm not screaming at you to go pick up the Jets to play this week. This is mainly if you can't pick up the Chiefs, you can't pick up the Saints, the Bills, or the Falcons, I would consider the Jets. Again, that's more like a 12 to 14 team league play. So yeah, that wraps up my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for week 16 of this NFL season. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure you hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please make sure you hit subscribe. You can follow me on X, TikTok, and Instagram with my @ handle is @CodyTalksNFL. You guys will get me tomorrow again for my top starts and sits, so I'll talk to you then. Peace out.